Hi, I'm PGTOCE and today we're going to be showing you how to make custom game matches in PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, also known as PUBG. In this first part, we'll be covering the basics of custom creation. Since PUBG has gone free to play, you now require PUBG Plus to be able to make custom game matches, which also comes with many other benefits such as being able to queue for ranked matches. This is available for purchase in-game. Now let's dive into it. Under Play, you'll see Normal, Ranked, Arcade, Training, and Custom. Custom is where you're able to join and create custom game modes. To be able to join a custom match, simply click on the name of the game you wish to join and click Join. If the game has a padlock next to it, that means the game is private and requires a password to enter. Search allows you to filter custom matches by session name. Filter allows you to search through games by status, region, perspective, team mode, match mode, and battle scale. This button allows you to refresh your screen, which will show you if any new matches have popped up and update any information. On the left here you can see different game modes. There's Normal, Team Deathmatch, Zombie Mode, Warmode Conquest, Esports Mode, and Training Mode. For now, let's start with Normal Mode. To create your custom match, simply press this button down the bottom left. Up the top left here, you'll be able to input your session name. You must have a session name to start a custom match, so let's call this one Testing. Next to the session name, you'll see a padlock. This is where you can make your game either public or private. If the padlock is unlocked like it is here, when you create your custom match, anyone will be able to join. If you'd like to make your game private, simply click on the padlock, and as you can see here, it pops up with a password input. Type in your password and click OK. Passwords are case sensitive, so remember what it is so you can tell your friends. On the left, you can select which games are available for the custom you wish to create from the selection of modes I listed before. If you wish to create a Team Deathmatch, also known as TDM, and accidentally start your game as normal mode, you will have to delete your session and recreate it, as there's no way to change the mode type after creating a game. In the middle here, there's some presets PUBG has already given to you. If you hover your mouse over the question mark, it offers you an explanation on what each setting entails. You cannot change the preset after creating your custom match. On the right here you can see some options. Map type, perspective, battle scale, max players, and team players. Spectate and Sandbox are only available to users with Sandbox access, which we will get into those settings later. Most of these options you can change after creating your custom match, however you cannot change the map, so choose wisely. Once we click create, your custom match will be up and ready for people to join. Here we have our custom match. In the middle you can see all the player slots available, which will start to fill up with names as players join. If you haven't made your game private, you can also do it from here. On the top right here we have the padlock. You can unlock your game and also lock your game from here. If it was already locked and you'd like to unlock it, you'll have to type in a new password to lock it again. This button next to it disables the ability for players to be able to change slots. If you click it, it will show up with a line in the middle of it, indicating that players are disabled from changing slots. Under that we have two things, Observer and Unassigned. Let's start with Observer mode. Only the host can move people into Observer, and you do that by clicking on the user you wish to move and clicking on Observer. Observer mode allows that player to view the game, but they cannot play or spawn things in. Observer mode allows that player to view the match from an admin perspective, where players are, teleporting to players, bullet tracking, and able to view inside airdrops. This is a dangerous permission to grant, as they could tell players information that they wouldn't otherwise know. Unassigned if of players for that haven't been assigned a spot in your custom. You can manually move people here, however if you start the game with people in there, they won't be able to play. You need a minimum of 4 people to start a custom match, yourself included. Now let's get into the match settings. To commit any settings from here on out, you will need to click Confirm. If you've made any changes and click Cancel, PUBG will warn you as all your unsaved changes will be lost. You will need to confirm this action before going back. Up the top you'll see Basic, Rules, and Spawns. Let's start with the basic settings. Here you can see your session title, which you can change from here, as well as the password input if you need to change it or simply forgot what it was. Before, when we talked about game settings, these are some of the ones you can change while in-game. You can change the server region where your game is being hosted if you'd like, however it automatically creates your custom match in the closest region available for you. I'm in Australia, so the region automatically set to Oceania. The preset we also talked about earlier. While it shows what the preset is, you cannot change it from here. You can also see what the map is, but again, you cannot change this. If you'd like to change it, you would need to delete your custom session and start again. Perspective you can change. There are two options available, third person and first person. Max players is how many players can join your match. It offers a maximum of 100 and a minimum of 32 slots. Team players is how many slots are available within a team, with a minimum of 1 solos to a maximum of 10. Spectate setting is only available to users with Sandbox access. You can turn invite friends on and off. If invite friends is off, people within your match won't be able to invite their PUBG friends. Now let's move on to rules. Now we're starting to get more in depth with custom creation. Depending on what preset you started your game with depends on what settings you'll get within the match settings. Here's where you can start customizing your custom. All settings by default here are the same that you get in normal matchmaking. DBNO stands for down but not out, and these settings are for the downed ability. If you've made a solos match, most of these settings don't do anything. Revive allows or disallows players to be revived. If turned off, players will not be downed and will instantly die. Revive time is how long it takes a teammate to revive someone, with a maximum of 20 seconds and a minimum of 1 second. Damage is how much bleed out damage a player will take when downed. This takes into account the standard bleed out damage that depends on how many times that player has been knocked. It has a maximum of 2 times damage and a minimum of 0.1 times damage. Friendly fire damage decides how much friendly fire players take from their teammates, with a maximum of 1 times and a minimum of 0, which turns friendly fire damage off. Carry limits decide how much of one throwable players can carry. This is dependent on bag space and weight. While by default it's set to infinite, if a player has no bag, they won't be able to carry as many grenades as someone with a level 3 backpack. If you've enabled spawns for grenades but set carry limits to 0, players will see grenades on the ground but be unable to pick them up. If the carry limit is set to 2, players can only hold 2 of that grenade at a time. Weapon damage changes the damage available for bullets, melee and throwables. Bullets and melee are dependent on what area the player is hit, but still takes into account standard PUBG rules. For example, if you wanted to make a game mode that's headshots only, you would leave head at 100 and set the rest to 0 like this. If you only change bullet damage but not melee damage, players will still take normal damage when hit with melee weapons or when they are punched. Throwable damage is not dependent on the area the player is hit and offers a maximum of 500% damage and a minimum of 0% damage. Blue zone has 2 options, circle and rectangle. If you select a rectangle, a new axis appears. This axis is where you're able to close the zone in on a specific area of the map by entering in the value. We found a website that allows you to easily find this value by simply selecting where you want the circle to close in on and entering those numbers. That website can be found in the description below. Now let's go back to circle. In a blue zone, activation essentially creates a donut circle. Let's have a look at that now. As you can see here, it has an outer blue zone, a safe zone, followed by an inner blue zone in the middle. For example, once phase 1 hits, the phase 2 circle will be shown in the middle of the phase 1 circle. Be careful with this, as players might be looting where the donut circle will pop. As shown here, I've sped up the first zone to mitigate this issue. Here's where you can start customizing your circles all the way from phase 1 through to phase 9. Delay is how long until the zone will start. For example, if it's set to 0, the zone will start instantly. This is dependent on wait time. For example, after 120 seconds, the wait time will start. This is the timer until the zone starts to move. Move is how fast the blue zone starts moving once the wait time has reached 0. DPS is how much damage per second the zone will do if players are in the blue zone. If DPS is set to 0.1, players will take 0.1 damage per second if they're in the blue zone. If DPS is set to 100, the blue zone is now instant death. Shrink is how large or small the next circle will be compared to the previous safe zone. Spread indicates the likelihood of the safe zone appearing closer to the center of the current zone, 10 being next to the safe zone right in the center. Land ratio adjusts the probability of the center of the next zone being on land. Total round time is how long your match is going to last. The maximum time is 70 minutes. Display end circle location adds a little white flag where the last circle will be. It's only visible to players that are in the plane and the first circle has popped. End circle location. If this is at 0, it will do nothing. If at 100, it is determined by town, field, and mountain. If these are equally set, the zone has an equal chance of ending in any of those areas if field is set to 0 and mountain and town was set to max. There's a 50-50 chance that the circle will end in a town or a mountain. If you want the zones to finish in a field, set fixed ratio to 100, town to 0, field to 10 times, and mountain to 0. This is determined by the invisible topology on the map painted by the developers and what they've determined as town, field, mountain. There are some bugs with this. This next setting turns red zones on or off completely. Start time is how quickly the first red zone will appear compared to normal. Lifetime sets the frequency of red zones and how often they appear on the map. Explosion warning time adjusts how much warning time you'll be given before the bombs start to drop once the red zone is shown on the map. Red zone duration adjusts how long each red zone will last, and red zone area is how big the area is for red zones. Explosion count is how many explosions there are per red zone. Equipment kit allows you to enable players to spawn in with a select gear set. There are only a few options available here. Care package frequency determines how often planes will drop care packages. Flare gun package allows you to turn on or off the ability to be able to call in flare gun packages. Item count multiplier determines how many items are in an airdrop. If this is set to 1 times, they will get 1 time set of armor and 1 crate weapon. If it's set to 3 sets of armor, 3 crate weapons will spawn. This is dependent on RNG and map type and applies to not only flare guns but also normal care packages. These settings determine how much of what flare drop type is available in each zone and has a maximum of 100 per package type. Convert dead players to observer allows players, once killed, to either spectate their killer or go into observer. As I stated earlier, this is a dangerous permission to grant. Killer spectating can deny or allow players the ability to spectate their killer once dead. Now let's move on to spawns. You have 3 options: fixed ratio and adjustable total, adjustable ratio and fixed total, and adjustable ratio and adjustable total. For fixed ratio and adjustable total, that means when you adjust the multiplier for any given item, it only affects the spawn rate of that item. For adjustable ratio and fixed total, it means the overall number of items spawned will be the same no matter what. So when you adjust the multiplier for any given item, it affects how it spawns relative to other items. Adjustable ratio and adjustable total allows you to adjust the overall spawn rate for items while also adjusting the relative spawn of items within that pool. This is a very useful spawn setting for creating modes and forcing items to spawn more than they usually do. However, it does take a lot of testing to get this right. The rest of this section allows you to adjust the spawns. There are 2 categories. You have your main category and your individual category. The main category allows you to adjust the spawn rate of all of the individual items. For example, if this is set to 0, no ammo will spawn. If it's set to 3 times the amount of ammo will spawn. This is also dependent on the individual spawns. If 1 or more is set to 0, that specific ammo type will not spawn. If 1 or more is set to 3 times of that specific ammo type will spawn. Spawn options also come with hidden dependencies. Every item in PUBG has a set spawn location, like how you can find items in buildings but they won't spawn in a field. You cannot force the game to spawn things in a field or in a specific location. In saying that, certain items share spawn slots with other items. For example, when we tried to make a Panzers only mode on Kraken with Panzers everywhere, we found that Panzer spawns were also shared with meds, so by turning meds down as shown here, that increased the Panzer spawns while still spawning in meds. It may not look like there's going to be a lot of med spawning, but due to using the adjustable ratio and adjustable total we talked about earlier, we were able to force the game to do what we needed. This took about 7 versions to set right. Use your game knowledge to determine if that weapon or ammo type usually spawns on that map. You can't force Winchesters to spawn on Sandhawk, that's only possible with Sandbox. And car spawns cannot be increased. Turning off or down a car spawn will not make more cars spawn, but rather make less spawn. Once you have finished making your custom match and you're happy with it, you can save your setting by clicking this button down here and input the file name. If you'd like to load a setting that you've already made, click on Load Settings, the match that you want, and then click Load. There are only 10 slots available, so make sure you use them wisely. Earlier we talked about all the different modes and presets that are available, so let's go back to that. Let's start with normal again. We already talked about default settings and all that entails, and some of these were intertwined with that, so if you haven't watched that part already, I suggest you rewind. Crossbow mode is pretty self-explanatory, however it's only available on air angle, and if you were wanting to make an easy, fast crossbow mode, I highly suggest using this preset. Despite the spawns in the match settings, crossbows, bolts, melee, throwables, meds, armor, and bags are the only things that will spawn. Vehicles do not spawn in this mode, so keep that in mind if you adjust your circles. One Weapon Wonder allows players with one weapon and some basic items, but no ammo. Players will have to loot for more items and ammo for that weapon. There's not much to say about this mode or any customizing you can do. TDM is limited to a maximum of 16 players and this cannot be changed. If players press M, they can spawn in with whatever gun they choose and they can change this throughout the game. As for zombie mode, default settings are the only ones available for PUBG Plus users. Survival, Elimination, and Royale is only available for users with Sandbox access, which we will get into that later. In default zombie mode, you have the same options as a normal default game. There'll be two teams, zombies and humans. The aim of this game is for either the humans or zombies to win. Neither party can respawn. Zombies start on the ground, so as soon as you spawn into the game as a zombie, that is your flight path. Zombies do not join the plane and have to run across the map to find the humans. Zombies cannot use weapons, loot, or open doors. Zombies jump twice as high and they run twice as fast. They also punch harder. Zombies can punch down wooden doors, but they can't punch out metal doors, and they can heal by avoiding damage for a period of time. They can also drive cars, however cars don't spawn on the map until the game has officially started. Most of this is also applicable to modes available with Sandbox access. In War mode, teams will face off on a points for kill system. Players can respawn, but they will have to drop again from the plane. Players by default will face off in a small circle that's randomly determined at the start of the match and does not get smaller. Some of the rules here are similar to a normal default setting, so let's focus on the ones that aren't. Goal score is how many points are required for a win, and offers a maximum of 500 and a minimum of 50. Teams get 3 points per 1 kill. Time limit is how long the match will last. Once either the goal score or time limit requirement is met, the game will end and the team with the most points will win. Team elimination enables teams to wipe out the opposing team. All team members must be wiped out for that team to be eliminated from the match. Static blue zone size determines the size of the area players will be facing off in, with a minimum of 0.1 and a maximum of 0.5. Respawn time is how quickly players will be able to respawn into the match. As for equipment kit, there's a lot of different options there. Random will spawn players in with a random weapon that's dependent on the equipment kit. Selectable will allow players to select from the equipment kit that's selected. Care package type is what will spawn in care packages. If it's off, default care packages will spawn. And AR and SR will spawn either ARs or SRs in those care packages. Interval is how often planes will drop care packages. All these settings are the same among presets. Abandoned Village, Dead Factory, and Bloody Resort are only available for users with Sandbox access. In War mode Conquest, two teams will fight to hold an objective. How many objective is dependent on area type. If it's set to small, players will fight over one objective. If you choose a larger one, more objectives will spawn. Teams gather points with kills, but also by holding objectives. The more objectives a team holds, the faster points will gather. Compared to the amount of points this gathers versus kills, a team cannot win the game on kills alone. Now let's take a look at those objectives in action. Here are what the zones look like. This is an uncaptured zone that's not held by a team. To capture the zone, simply step into it. As you can see here, the zone is slowly being captured by my team. The more team members in the circle, the faster the zone will capture. Once the zone is fully captured by that team members can leave the circle and it will still be owned by that team until an enemy steps into the circle to capture it. It also shows up on the map here, what team owns it and where it is. The custom settings here available are the same as War mode. Now let's move on to esports. There are two presets here, default and global. Global rule settings are the same settings that they use to host the esports competitive matches. These settings can be changed in match settings and have the same options as a normal default game. The only visible benefit to hosting a game with these options is that hard spawns for cars are enabled. There is no setting to enable or disable this in any of the custom matches. Maps for hard spawns have been made by competitive players and are easy to find using a quick Google search. Training mode allows you to create a private training mode session. There are no settings to customize this, and it still requires 4 players to start the match. Earlier we mentioned a bunch of settings that are only available to users with Sandbox access. Now we're going to start talking about all these settings. Compared to normal, if you have Sandbox enabled, you're able to start the game with just yourself. However, the game will instantly end due to winning the game, so I recommend a minimum of 2 people. Let's start with match options. There was 2 we mentioned earlier, Spectate and Sandbox. To be honest, I have no idea what Spectate does. I've done some testing and I still can't work it out. If you do know, feel free to leave a comment down below. As for Sandbox, this is the setting to enable or disable the host to be able to use Sandbox mode in the game. The host must be a player, and this setting must be enabled before the start of the match for the host to be able to utilize the Sandbox feature. Under match settings and rules, you'll also have a new menu that pops up called UI options. This comes with some pre-made options for you and enables you to force players to play without certain parts of the UI, such as the map. Under zombie mode, a few new presets pop up with Sandbox: Survival, Elimination, and Royale. As stated earlier, if you mouse over the question mark, the game will offer you an exclamation on each mode. There are a few new match settings under these rules that pop up as well, where the presets originate from, so let's explain these. If you've selected one of the 3 new presets, there's a time limit option as well. This is not available in the default preset, so if you selected these, this time limit is how long the humans have to survive against the zombies in order to win the game. Auto recovery allows zombies, both, none, or the humans to utilize the recovery feature. Depending on which one you selected, it will allow them, when not taking damage for a period of time, to automatically recover their health. Under the zombie category, health is how much health the zombies have. It offers a maximum of 500 and a minimum of 50. Zombie damage multiplier is how much punch damage zombies do. Remove zombies DABNO allows or disables zombies to be downed and revived by teammates. Zombie respawn enables zombies to be able to respawn once killed, which is also dependent on zombie respawn time, which offers a maximum of 60 seconds and a minimum of 5 seconds. Zombies will respawn in the same place that they're killed. Zombie virus makes it so that the zombies can infect the humans. If turned off, this feature will be disabled. There's 2 options in terms of enabling it: all or attacked. If set to attacked, it means that the zombies must hit the humans in order to infect them. All means that as soon as players spawn, they are already infected. With either of those 2 settings, if a human player is infected, upon being killed, they will respawn as a zombie with the same abilities, HP, as the original zombies, dependent on the other settings you have chosen in the zombie category. If a human player is infected, the health bar will turn green. There is no way for the humans to become uninfected. If zombie virus DPS is turned to anything higher than 1, the humans will take damage similar to being in the blue, and they will have to consistently heal in order to mitigate this damage. Depending on how high you set this to, if it's set to the maximum, this ticks harder than being in the blue at phase 9 in a normal game. Human detection enables or disables zombies to detect humans, and will pop up periodically on the map, minimap, and on their screen. For a zombie, the humans will appear as a red dot. Zombie to zombie damage enables or disables friendly fire from zombies' teammates. Now let's move on to Warmode. If you selected one of the 3 new presets, Abandoned Village, Dead Factory, and Bloody Resort, a few new settings pop up under the category Commander. These settings are also available in Warmode Conquest. Commander activation enables or disables all of the abilities listed below. These abilities are able to be utilized by all players by pressing M, pressing the ability they wish to use, and then selecting where they'd like to use it on the map. From my experience, artillery doesn't seem to do anything. We tried this out, and even though it appeared on the map, nothing seemed to happen. Healing package and weapon package both enable or disable these abilities to be used. Weapon package spawns in normal airdrops containing normal airdrop loot. Healing package spawns in what looks like a flare drop and has medkits, first aids, bandages, and boosts in it. The cooldown timer for all of these determine how often players are able to utilize this feature, or alternatively, how long they take to recharge. Now let's move on to how to use the Sandbox feature in the game. If multiple players in the same match also have Sandbox, only the host, if enabled on their account, can utilize the Sandbox feature both in-game and in the options. As stated earlier, before starting the game, the host must have Sandbox setting turned on and they must be a player in the game. You can only utilize these settings once you have left the plane and landed on the ground. Once in the game, everyone in your lobby can see that Sandbox is enabled via this icon on the top right. In order to spawn things in, anything other than vehicles, you must be standing on the ground. You cannot be flying and you cannot spawn anything in if you're in a vehicle. By default, F8 opens the Sandbox spawn menu. As far as I'm aware, this keybind cannot be changed. And here we have the Sandbox menu. We have weapons, items, vehicle, and power. To spawn something in, simply click on the item you wish to spawn like this. If you wish to spawn everything in, you must use the grant all toggle option on the right under powers. Players must be standing still to receive items. They cannot be in a vehicle. If spawning in vehicles, they must be outside, otherwise the vehicle will spawn on top of the roof or building the player is in. If a player is moving in a vehicle or in an incorrect location when you try to spawn them items, it will pop up on their screen saying failed to spawn object. Let's move on to powers. You have Fly, Invincibility, Care Package, Red Zone, Self-Revive, Revive Team, and Grant All. Fly, Invincibility, and Grant All are toggled options. You can turn them on or you can turn them off. They will be highlighted as shown here if the ability is enabled. If you press Invincibility, you cannot die, and this is shown to everyone in your lobby via a gold icon around your character. You cannot fly under or off the map. Care Package, when pressed once, will spawn in a care package. A plane will fly overhead and drop a care package in a location around you. From testing, this appears to select a random player on the map and drop the care packages on top of them. If you press this multiple times in succession, the game will say failed to call in care package. Only 9 care packages can be called in at once. The only exception to this rule is flare drops, providing enough are available, it appears that an infinite amount of airdrops can be called in. Providing red zones have been enabled in your custom, this button will create a small red zone surrounding the host when pressed. Self-revive and revive team. If you're in a team, it allows you to revive yourself, and revive team allows you to revive your teammates only. If you wish for other players to be able to revive themselves, I suggest that you spawn them in as self-AED, which are found under items and etc. As stated before, this is a toggle setting. If this setting is turned on, all players in your match will be given the items that you select. Below that we have 2 counters, items and vehicle. Only 2,000 items can be spawned in and only 100 vehicles can be spawned in. This item count only applies to items that are on the ground. The only exception to this rule is naturally spawned items do not count towards this counter. If on the ground, 1 stack counts as 1 item. If an item that usually stacks is split into singles, each single will count as 1 item. Add ammo will give all players the same ammo type that the host is using. For example, if the host has an AK out, all players will receive 7.62 ammo regardless of what weapons the players are holding. The host must have the chosen weapon out for this feature to work. And this concludes our how-to customs. I hope this provided you with some useful information so that you can create exciting new game modes. Special shout out to BoomRoasted76 who inspired us to make this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe and say g'day to Boomer on his Twitch. The link can be found below.
All I wanted was Aha.
I got one.
Wait,
Are there
wait.
meds? Are there meds here?
I almost
Wait, somebody's driving with 2 on top of it? That's cheating?
I'm out. Can we go? Am I allowed to go? Can we drive now?
I'm trying to get off my car. Oh yeah, that was me driving.
Oh
shit!
no! I have a 4 fucking double-decker buses going after me?
I got it. I got it.
I'm so sorry.
Oh, good.
What the fuck, man?
I don't know what to do.
Wait, can we... Maybe I can...